indication of some lessening in intensity of the storm, but like I said, that probably will not reach. Look at how big this thing is. Going to go to a visible photograph now. This is a pretty one, and it shows the storm, again, the way it looks in the visible spectrum. Again, bands all the way up to Louisiana already, covering much of the Gulf. There is the eye right there to the north.
Rolled through. The storm whipped up 15-foot weather for me.
Oh, he was going to call me. He called me.
Yeah, I told him.
The National Hurricane Center has calculated that Gilbert is now about 500 miles wide, about the distance between Detroit and Washington, D.C. The winds varied in intensity. At times, they reached 200 miles an hour. No conventional building is designed to withstand such a force. In Miami, supplies donated
on the northeast coast of Mexico. However, we're expecting it to turn slowly towards the northwest sometime tomorrow.
6,000 people died in Galveston in 1900. The forecast the day before called for sunny skies. The understanding of hurricanes in the...
Noon Monday, it was located south of Cuba there. Then it continued to the north. Noon yesterday over the Cayman Islands. Noon today over the Yucatan Peninsula. And its current position now puts it just offshore again, right about there. And that's about 50 miles away from Merida. And still, the storm isn't that strong, but will regain some strength. All right, let's go all the way back to Monday morning, look at the same time sequence, and watch the actual storm occur. And there you see the eye wobbling around through Cancun, through the Cayman Islands, through Cancun and Cozumel, and now right there, just off the northern tip. Disappeared, so the storm was losing its intensity as the upper air winds and the surface winds were disrupted by all the land masses down here. Now notice, as it comes off the other side, we're starting to pick up a little orange and a little red again in the spiral bands as it starts to take shape again. We'll watch this a couple more times as it goes across Cancun, across the Yucatan Peninsula, and continues its motion toward the west-northwest. It hasn't altered that in 4 days, almost a straight line across. Again, we expect it to turn a little bit to the north. On the radar loop, we're going to show you a kind of a strong line of showers and thunder showers right now moving through Key West. And again, this is still connected loosely with the hurricane. And as it
passes over water, it will pick up in intensity again. To pinpoint the location of the storm, gauge its size and its heading, and also its likely impact when it reaches the United States, we're going now to Miami, where we're joined by the director of the National Hurricane Center, Dr. Robert Sweets. Bob, explain to us what that picture is about, would you?
Well, this is a satellite picture that we're watching of the hurricane. The eye of the hurricane is now just passing off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula and moving towards the west-northwest.
Explain to me why it is that a storm loses in intensity when it passes over land and then picks up velocity again when it passes over the water.
Well, of course, its source of energy is the warm ocean waters, and converting that in this heat engine process. So the eye wall develops, it releases heat in the atmosphere, warms the atmosphere, moves over the water, over the land, it cuts off that heat source and slowly starts to lose some of that strength.
We have talked about the velocity of the storm itself. At what speed is the storm itself actually moving toward Texas and Louisiana?
It's moving about 15 miles per hour on a west-northwest course at this time.
Which will take it over which cities roughly when?
We're moving here now. This is already the track of the hurricane. If it continues directly west-northwest as it's moved for the last 2 days, it would come into the northern part of Mexico. However, we think it's going to take a slow turn toward the northwest, and that means anywhere along the Gulf Coast of Texas, but the most likely area is the southern part of Texas or the northern part of Mexico.
And when do you anticipate it reaching landfall there?
Friday afternoon, Friday evening.
I have seen you quoted, Bob, in some of the wire copy that I've been reading to the effect that this storm bears a rather striking similarity in terms of its path to Camille, which was that incredible storm back in, what was it, 69?
In 69, this hurricane here matched that in terms of its intensity yesterday and the day before yesterday.
Any reason to believe that it will pick up that level of intensity again as it crosses the Gulf?
That's a rare event. We are forecasting it to strengthen as it moves out here north of the Bay of Campeche, but whether or not it will get it back up to that strength again is probably doubtful. We think that it will get up to maybe 140, maybe 145 or 50 miles per hour, but getting to that category, that's a rare event.
Now, again, talking about some of the research I was reading.
La costa de Texas y norte México. Hay evacuaciones del condado de Aransas y Nueces y la isla de Padre y Mustang.
And east of the eye really is right there. We'll put that into motion now and see what it's done since daybreak this morning. And here we were early, and you can see this motion off to the west-northwest. We haven't really seen any change in that at all.
In the Gulf of Mexico is the hurricane. The last 6 hours on the visible satellite clearly shows the storm continuing that west-northwest motion, but it also shows the storm, at least to my eyes, beginning to tighten up a little bit and strengthen. Now, the winds were 120 miles per hour at the 3 o'clock advisory. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see a little strengthening here as we run through this kind of fast here. You can see it's sort of, if you would extend this line, it would be right about again here. You can almost draw a straight line from one side to the other as we put the color on it now. And remember, we're looking for the oranges to appear because those are the highest cloud tops. And it really doesn't look as impressive as it looked before coming off of Yucatan here. We're speeding it up almost at dizzying speed just to prove a point, just to show how it is going almost in a straight line here. And really, it doesn't look as organized now as it used to. And so that's one good factor. It may not attain much more strength. However, it's still got another...
Clouds into motion for you. We can see the storm continuing on its track to the west-northwest. Bands of rain moving up to the northern Gulf and into the western Gulf of Mexico. But as you can see, still the worst is offshore, right near the core of the storm, and that has yet to move in, but it's getting closer and closer to Brownsville, so the rains will continue to pick up there as well as the winds. Action radar time. We'll take you into Galveston, Texas.
So with all the instability, the lifting mechanism for the air, and in the valleys and some of the mountain areas there, you're getting a lot of sprinkles around, but unfortunately, as that is still offshore, we are dealing with the onshore flow, and there's a lot of patchy clouds. 50 deaths, many from the rainfall-induced flooding it unleashed. Hurricane Carla smashed the Texas coast in 1961. This Category 4 storm packed wind gusts up to 175 miles per hour with tides near 16 feet. 46 lives were lost and damage was estimated near $400 million. More recently, Hurricane Alicia made landfall near Galveston, Texas in 1983, bringing winds near 100 miles per hour. And although Alicia was only a Category 3 storm, it was the costliest hurricane in Texas history, responsible for more than $2 billion in damage to the state. For the Weather Channel,
the eye is inland by about 20 miles, so we think the extremely gusty winds are there, although not now, and you can see still the concentric orange area around that center, and that is where the real damaging wind is, roughly over a diameter of about 150 miles. Now we want to go back and put this on into motion for you, show you the clouds in motion. You can see the hurricane as it came on in, and as it made landfall, it's still wobbling a little bit, but right now the eye getting smaller and smaller. Still an awful lot of wind and rain. Getting a report now of a lot of flooding up the river at Laredo, Texas, and that is the tip of the iceberg, we're afraid, as in time the hurricane will begin to make a turn and unfortunately drive an awful lot of torrential rainfall on across the hill country. Matter of fact, let's get a look at a radar view now, take you on into Brownsville. From Brownsville, we see more
important than me, and you can see as the storm was definitely a very intense storm right there. It hit the Yucatan of Mexico. It lost a lot of its power. It regained a little bit of strength in the central Gulf of Mexico before it hit the northeast Mexican coast right there. That occurred about 6 o'clock tonight. It is now inland. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. This time we're going to put color on the thing, and you can watch for the deepest, darkest reds, and that indicates the very strong and intense thunderstorms surrounding the eye. Now you can see it getting going right about there. It's at maximum intensity. Look how symmetric that is. The reds go away, and we just have a few oranges. It tries to come back again. A few reds come around the center. It intensifies a little bit, but still nowhere near the intensity that it was earlier. So there is the position tonight way into the northern Mexico coast, so it does not look like it's going to do much.
Expect it to turn over the land.
What about the size of the eye? Is that gray patch in the middle, is that the eye?
That's the eye. It's starting to fill in, and that will fill in during the night.
South or west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands, around in a pretty decent counterclockwise fashion, but note the winds aloft are steering off these higher cirrus clouds, and ahead of it you can see some of these high clouds being shunted off toward the east, and that'll inhibit any big-time
development. So the thing is way, way out there, and there it is. It's sort of respectable for a tropical storm, but again, remember, it's a long, long way away. The only reason we're telling you
to watch very, very carefully. Let's go back in time and show you how that's all evolved today. It was named about 2 o'clock this afternoon, and now it has gone from top winds of 40 miles per hour all the way to 60 miles per hour as it continues traversing on off toward the west and up way above, there's a big high pressure area, so that is conducive for more development, and therefore as it tracks.
With time, and you can see the clouds swirling about it. And as we put the clouds into motion for you, you can see the storm pushing its way westward across the open waters of the Atlantic. The storm is still a good 2-3 days away from.
If you look at the latest particular.